Hi, my name is Jay Sugarman, and I want to welcome you to Innovation Showcase. The main purpose of this ongoing series is to inform viewers about exciting innovations and creative individuals across the fields of business, science, technology, education, and the arts. Today, from Poland via Zoom, we're fortunate to have as our guest ultra runner extraordinaire Tomasz Sobania. Known by many as the Polish Forrest Gump, Tomasz has built a reputation for transforming seemingly impossible dreams into reality. Whether running across countries or taking on extraordinary endurance challenges, Tomasz has demonstrated that persistence, optimism, and purpose can carry us farther than we ever imagined. To celebrate America's 250th anniversary, among other reasons, Tomas recently completed 50 marathons in 50 states over the course of 49 days, covering more than 1,300 miles while traveling across the United States from coast to coast. But Tomas's journey is about far more than breaking records or crossing finishing lines. Throughout his run across America, he met thousands of people, visited communities in every corner of the country, inspired students and fellow runners, and shared a message that our greatest limitations are often the ones we place on ourselves. His adventure became a celebration of resilience, determination, and the power of setting ambitious goals and then taking the first step toward achieving them. Let's start by meeting Tomas and then finding all about his recent monumental accomplishment of running 50 marathons in 50 states in 49 days. Welcome, Tomas. So delighted you're able to be here.
Thank you so much for having me, Jay.
And first of all, just congratulations on this unthinkable achievement. It's been exciting following the course of your travels, eager to find out more and have you inform viewers. But before we jump right to that, I think it would be of interest if you'd briefly share perhaps just a little bit about your background and then how your interest in exploration and adventure came about.
Well, that's a pretty long story, but to keep it short, it's been 8 years now, 8 years of organizing and running for long distances, and it all started simply because I was always late, and to get to the school, um I always try to catch the train, and I was always running late, and simply that's how it all started. But this bad habit actually met something that was always inside of me. I always wanted to be an athlete. So when I finally got the chance to be an athlete, I never really had this kind of chance because for me in Poland, growing up, I tried to be a football player, but I just simply wasn't good enough. Plus, it took a lot of time of my parents. When my dad was working a lot, my mom was taking care of four kids. Simply was not easy to for them to combine all these things and take good care of me. And eventually, when I started attending high school, I started running more and more. And since I'm pretty ambitious, I set my first goal, which was running 20 miles in one day to celebrate my 18th birthday. In
Nice.
Poland, when you're 18, that means you're an adult. And that's when it all really started. After that, every year I just went more and more. I ran across Europe. I mean, I went from Poland to Rome, where I met Pope Francis. I went from Poland to Barcelona in Spain, then from Poland to Greece and back to the famous marathon in Greece. And then eventually I ran across America like Forrest Gump from one coast to another. And after that, to celebrate America's 250, to celebrate the Polish impact on that independence too, I did this 50 states run.
That is incredible. What inspired the recent accomplishment, the 50 marathons, 50 states, which turned out to be 49 days?
Well, there was a couple of reasons, but first of all, after running across US, I knew that I want to come back one day because I felt like that's a great place to run. That's a great place to do such a major project. I mean, I love this kind of mindset of Americans that everything is possible. And where's there, I heard it so many times where there's a will, there's a way. And I
Yeah.
just love it. I mean, this is one of the reasons, the fact that America celebrates 250 years of independence. Then, I was inspired by Dean Karnazes, who once did 20 years ago 50 marathons in all 50 states in 50 consecutive days. And he's a legend in
Yeah.
the running society. And now, 8 years ago, he went to Poland and he gave a speech, and I had the chance to listen to him. And for me, at that point of my life, I was wondering, is this something I should do? Is it normal? Because nobody else does it, right? When I
Right.
when I when I spoke to my parents or my friends, they were, "Are you nuts? Is it normal?" Um, and then I met Dean, and I actually saw that you can make a living out of it, and you can be an athlete, and you can do interesting things in life. And actually, he was an example for me that all these things I'm dreaming of are possible. And for many years, I thought it is beyond my reach to run 50 marathons in 50 states in 50 days. But then eventually, I ran across America. So I thought maybe it is possible. And since my motto is you can do more than you thought possible, I said, well, this is perfectly fine for me to now try to reach what I always thought is not possible. And the fact that I finished this run one day earlier than I predicted,
Yeah.
and in 49 days, it's just even more a perfect example of doing more than you ever thought possible. I wouldn't even think that it's possible for me to run in 50 days, and yet I did it in 49 days.
No, it's incredible to read. I know I was a little surprised when I found out that the last day turned out to be really back to back two marathons. To shave a day off to make it 49 was mind-boggling indeed. And I know you don't do this alone. You have a wonderful support team. Can you share a little bit about their role in helping you orchestrate this unbelievable accomplishment?
Well, their role is absolutely crucial, and without them, that wouldn't be possible. I mean, I had 6 people in my team, 2 RVs, and we were traveling from one state to another. They were taking good care of me. We had 2 drivers, we had a physical therapist, 2 filmmakers, and then a social media person. So that's a pretty big team, and I'm absolutely thankful for them because they made it all possible. I mean, I brought them to America. In a way, they are my workers because they get paid for this. But trust me, it's not big money. They mostly do it for adventure and stuff. But I love them, and we had a great time, especially the first part of this run when we traveled to all these nice places was absolutely wonderful, and I was so happy to have people to share that experience with.
Can you give us a little sense, because I know it's quite detailed, just what type of planning and preparation and how long in advance does it take to begin to even start this type of undertaking?
Mhm. Well, it was a year, so it may seem a lot, but trust me, it was not a lot of time to do such a project, especially when I did most of the job. So I organized it myself. I didn't have money for people to do this for me or an event agency or whatever. So most of the planning, most of the organizing, most of the raising funds and everything, that was on my shoulders. And it was extremely hard. And especially this spring when the war in Iran started, and I was talking to many sponsors, and they were telling me that, well, the situation is getting worse and the economy is not, I mean, they were not feeling safe. And in such an environment, to give money for sponsorships is the last thing they think of, right? So I really think it's a great success that I actually managed to find all these funds and organize it all. And I remember when I started my run, I thought, wow, I already succeeded. This is a big success that we are there. And what will happen next? Maybe there will be another success. but this already was a success to get this all ready. So that's one part of it. But then the other part is to get myself physically ready for this challenge, and that's what I started also around a year prior. I mean, you know, I run for 10 years now, and this is big part of preparation for any run that what I did is, my body remembers that. So I don't
Mm.
start from the same spot anyone else would start. So 1 year ago, when I started preparing, my body knew what I was signing up to, and so it wasn't that bad physically. I feel like it was kind of easier than logistically and in terms of organizing it all.
How about mentally? Is there preparation beforehand with that? And actually, how does that develop throughout the course of the undertaking?
Well, that's also interesting because I know that I changed, and all these runs in Europe and in America, they built my resilience. And maybe some of people think that it's only about a physical challenge, but trust me, I needed to train my head as well and my mentality to endure for so long in harsh conditions. So, I started working with psychologists, but before I didn't even have any kind of professional taking care of me. Finally, I have it, and it really works. But still, it's mainly my character and my ability to push no matter how hard it gets. But I built it. This is not something I was born with. And like the muscles, your mental resilience also needs to be trained. And I built that throughout those years when I was running more and more in Europe and then while running across US.
No, you're an incredible role model for the rest of us, both physically and the mental aspect. Truly remarkable. Well, I know, every day is different, nothing sort of typical. Can you give us a little sense of maybe some commonality between waking up, getting the marathon in, winding down until you get some well-deserved sleep?
Mhm.
Just a little sense of what a day certain aspects might contain.
Well, you are absolutely right that there were not many typical days on this run. Well, usually we would just wake up around 6, 6:30, and by 7:30 I was running. Simply because around 1:30 I wanted to finish my run because that's when we could pack up all the stuff, get a quick dinner, and go to another state. Sometimes this road was 7 hours long, sometimes even 8 hours long. Especially West Coast is the distances are huge, and it took forever to get to another state. Sometimes I was, mm, um, you know, we were driving for 7 or 8 hours, and that's when I finally got to sleep. But then around 6 a.m., I had to start it over again. Um, and that wasn't even that bad because sometimes we needed to, for example, when I was in Hawaii, we flew the night before. I slept for 4 hours and I started my marathon at 5 a.m. It was already extremely hot and humid,
Mm.
but I needed to finish my marathon by 10:30 because we needed to go to the airport. and
Wow.
and then we flew to Las Vegas, and we were there in the evening, and so it was extremely intense. But that's more or less the first week. Then it got a little better in the second part of the run when, for example, I could have started my run at 9 a.m. I ran until at 2 p.m., for example. I usually ran around 4.5 hours, and then but I did 2 or 3 short breaks. For example, I needed to go to the toilet or I needed to eat something for 15 minutes, and then I started running again. So it was more or less 5 hours or five and a half. And then I had a shower, and my team already was preparing me a meal, and I was given the meal. I put my compression sleeves on, and that's how I started recovering on the road because we are already on the road to another state.
Speaking of the different states and marathons, when you look back, are there any that states or marathons that stand out as maybe more unforgettable than others?
Oh yeah, I guess it's hard even to pick which one of those is the best, but there are many that I will forever remember. For example, running in Alaska was absolutely incredible.
Mm.
We went 1 hour, we drove 1 hour from Anchorage, so we got to start in the middle of nature, and it was only me and my team. I started running, and I felt like the nature is so powerful here. It's
Mm.
like really, literally at the end of the world, no humans around, just the pure, powerful nature, and just this
Mm.
feeling and this possibility to be there and to experience that was something I will be forever grateful. Also, Yellowstone National Park, that was incredible. We went there and I even met the bear. That was crazy. I was scared, but eventually it was, I will never forget that. I was like, he crossed the street 100 yards in front of me,
Wow.
and
Oh,
I was not having a car where I could jump to or something. I was just feeling naked and completely helpless if he starts running towards me or something, but fortunately nothing happened. And so there were many moments I will remember. It's not only about places, but also about people. And can you imagine that I met a guy, his name is Augie, and he's a volunteer at the Railroad Museum in Sioux City, Iowa. And I went there. I was simply running my marathon in Iowa and in this area, and we had this short break by the Railroad Museum. And when I saw it, I said, okay, I'm gonna go see if it's possible to get in. And Augie was the guy I met, and it turned out he's a great guy, just so nice. And he took me and my team, and he showed us around, and we had a great time. And he even gave us, I gave him my t-shirt like this, and
mm.
he gave to all of us their t-shirts. And I was just having a great conversation with him about dreams and about him thinking as a kid to go to Europe, but he never really had a chance. So he's
Mm.
so glad that his son went to Europe. And to me, it was a moment when I saw the people are just the same, no matter what country we're from, which state. We have so much more in common than we think. So those meetings and these people and these places I will always remember.
Wonderful. Just building on that, were there local traditions or other communities that stand out that you weren't aware of that just either gave you a positive reaction or you were surprised you learned from, which I'm sure you did throughout the trip?
Well, I don't know of any. I mean, we're in such a rush that we were only sometimes on the surface of everything. So it was sometimes difficult to get to the bottom of it and to get some more than just, the surface. But still, we met some great people and we had a great time. I mean, for example, Chicago was great. There's a huge Polish community, and there
Mhm.
were a bunch of people running with me there. And then we went to Wisconsin, and again, I felt like I'm by the sea. Well, it's a lake, in Poland. If you call it a lake, everybody would be thinking, how is that possible? You can't see the other end.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I don't really think I met anybody and I try to remember any traditions or local,
Yeah.
but it wasn't easy. I mean, I met some great people from different places and they were telling me stories and stuff, but I can't really remember now any of them.
I think I read you often say every mile tells a story. What story do you think your journey ultimately tells?
Well, I really hope that it tells the story of an inspiration and of going beyond what's possible for many. And for me as a kid from a small town in Poland to run a marathon in every American state in 49 days, this is absolutely a story of what's possible for a human being when we are really, uh, you know, persistent. And and that's it. I didn't have much money. I didn't have the connections I needed, but I wanted to do that, and this will made me do it, and it was absolutely incredible. And I really hope this is what people will remember.
Definitely, definitely. Has running across America changed the way you see people and communities?
Of course, I mean, the most important lesson is that really we have more in common than we think. And as America is so divided right now, I really think people are not aware that their neighbors and people on the other side of America are having the same needs and are as kind, as open as they are. And wherever we went, we were just re welcomed with hospitality and people were treating us nicely. So I think Americans have much more in common than they think.
You know, crossing the finish line must have been incredibly emotional. What was going through your mind in those last few miles?
The last few miles were a little hard. I mean, I did 52 miles that day, plus the conditions were not perfect. It was raining. I was
Mm.
wondering if anybody will come to Times Square to meet me there. But then I remembered my mom is coming there, and I remember having a conversation with my mom. She flew all the way from Poland. She's not speaking English. She's a little afraid of flying, and still she made it there. So I knew if my mom is there, I don't need anyone else. And she would wait for me in this rain. I just remembered that, and that really helped me through these last miles. And eventually, it turned out that it was one of the best moments of my life. For the last mile, there was a bunch of people running with me. We had a police escort while running towards Times Square, and then there was even more people at Times Square and my mom. So I remember just running past all those people with my hands like that in the air, finishing my the biggest run of my life. It was just unbelievably, I was unbelievably happy. I just couldn't be happy. And we had a great celebration. All those people who came there, my team who was so happy because, we made it. It was not only me, they made it through all these difficult situations and living in the RVs for 2 months like family while they didn't even really know much about each other before. We met a couple of times, but you never know what's going to happen when you live like a family for so long. So we
And
all made it, and I guess we were relieved and absolutely happy.
for sure, for sure. You know, looking back, despite the incredible planning you and your team did beforehand, were there any particular surprises or challenges that caught you off guard and you had to adapt and pivot to overcome?
Oh yeah, that was one, especially one challenging thing, and that was my injury. I had an injury of the quadriceps, and I never had this kind of injury ever, especially when I was out there running marathon a day. And so the first part of this run was absolutely beautiful, and I was so happy many times. But then after the injury, it was painful all the time. And I remember waking up with the pain and fighting through the pain throughout the day, and then sleeping and waking up to the pain, and that was just incredibly hard. And I guess that was something wasn't really prepared for, even though I ran all these miles and expeditions before. I never experienced this much of pain, and it was really hard. I guess I was so happy it's not more than 50 days because I don't know if I would make it.
How's your body feeling now?
But it's much better. What's interesting, my body slightly recovered during this run. So when I was running my two marathons, this injury wasn't that bad. I mean, the physical therapy plus proper diet, it helped to the point where I was able to do even more. But the first couple days after my run, I was like I had a big hangover really because I felt I was, do you know this state where you were in big tension for a long time? You try to, do a big project or something, and then when you are relieved and you don't have to do anything else, your health collapsed for a second. So I
Yeah.
felt like I I caught a cold or if I had a fever. So 2 or 3 days, and then I started feeling better. And right now, as I'm in Poland, back home, I'm already feeling good, and I'm gonna be back to running soon.
Wonderful, wonderful. If somebody watching today has a dream that seems to them and others may be completely out of reach, what advice would you give them about taking the first step?
Well, I guess the best thing you can do is to be curious. And if you are curious of what can happen, that's when you start. And this is it. Don't think too much about what's next, what will come into the future, or will you make it or not. For me, the curiosity is so important. So just take this first step, and we'll see what happens next.
Being back home, when you have a minute now to look back, what are some thoughts you have about yourself and this whole experience that you've been able to pull off that few, if any, other humans can do at this time?
Well, for me now, the fact that I made it and that it all worked out is just such a relief. I'm telling you, I'm so content now because for many months I was worried. And for me, the expedition is a constant worrying of whether it will work out or not. Any problems that appear are, I need to fight them, and I'm not sure if I'll make it. So eventually, when it all worked out and I'm back home and I made the impact I wanted to make, that's just an incredible um, moment for me. Plus, I remember that it wasn't always that way. For example, once when I started, I wanted to run to Rome to meet Pope Francis there. I was about to give him a letter from a girl that was sick with brain cancer that always
Mm,
wanted to meet him.
mm.
And I was preparing for this run, and then COVID happened, and I didn't go anywhere for 2 years. So I remember this moment, and I'm thinking, well, this time everything worked out. Well, I eventually went to Rome and I met Pope and I gave him that letter, but it took me
Oh,
2 years. So
wow.
now I'm finally here. I'm back home. Everything worked out. We had a great adventure. So for now, for me, this is so important that having these bad experiences and having now this great experience, I can be properly thankful for that.
You mentioned there were a filmmaker and others with you, documentarians. Are there follow-ups and other projects connected to your run now?
Yes, I mean, we will be doing a documentary movie about it, about the run. There already are some vlogs on YouTube. If it's, I mean, it's in Polish, but if you turn on the subtitles in English, you can access some of the stories that happened throughout the run. And I'm telling you, the Alaska and Hawaii vlog is just great. You should see that. The filmmakers are really talented, and you can actually hire them because they live in Los Angeles.
Oh,
Uh, and they are just so talented, I'm telling you. So there are some interesting things coming up.
wonderful, wonderful. Well, just building on that in closing, how can viewers and others best access your information, possibly get in touch with you?
Well, there are a couple ways. First of all, if you go to my website, which is Tomasz Sobania, it's TOMASZSOBANIA.pl, like Poland. There's an English version of this website too, and then you can contact me there, or you go to my Instagram or Facebook, and you can also access it just typing my name. We posted a lot of videos in English, and there were vlogs from different states in English, so you can definitely get a glimpse of what it was when I was running my marathon in every state.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, we'll be sure to put those references in the closing credits. But
Thank you so much.
unfortunately, Tomas, we've come to the end of the program. I want to thank you so much again for taking the time to be here. Congratulations again. Eager to find out more on those sites you mentioned. And for now, just want to wish you continued success with future endeavors.
Thank you so much, Jay.
Also want to thank those of you watching for joining us and hope you'll be able to tune in next time.